Okay guys, shop life. Sorry about the noise in the background, but it is what it is. This customer bought this vehicle at auction, and they didn't realize that this car has been in an accident. Here's a prime example right here. If I go ahead and wipe these two spots right here, you can see the factory. A little bit of orange peel. A lot of orange peel. It's like 2 or 3 times the amount. Really bad job they did here. This whole front bumper is orange peeled all the way through. You can even see it in the shininess right here. If you look at a shiny spot here, it's more flat. It's not so bumpy like the shiny spot here. This vehicle's been in an accident. It's only got 2,700 miles on it. I got to pull this whole front bumper off because not only is there a restraint code set in the RCM, even though there's nothing wrong with the vehicle anymore, that front end damage that was done was enough to set a code, a hard code in the computer, and it will not go away even though there's nothing wrong with the system. So the RCM has to be replaced. Also, this front bumper where it was damaged, the active grille shutter assembly, it never stops randomly. The shutter assembly will start working even when it's not supposed to. And then after you self-test this and try to get the shutter assembly to work or command it on or off with the data logger, it will never shut off when you're done. Even when you turn the vehicle off, pull the key off and everything else. So this assembly is biased. The potentiometer in the motor that controls the opening and closing of this shutter assembly is faulty, and it doesn't know what position it wants to be in or where it's supposed to stop. This shutter assembly is essentially only for like cold start type stuff. It'll close and it'll stop air from being drawn across the radiator so the vehicle can actually warm up faster, and then it'll open back up once it's warm up to allow air across it. You know, they find, I'm sure there's reasons for emissions and everything else, but it's kind of a shit design, to be honest with you. Unless you have like something that's really sensitive to cold climate. I would see that on the older vehicles more than the newer ones, but anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and get this bumper off of here. You just pry this inner fender well plastic back out of the way. There's a couple clips in here that hold it all to it. They're push clips. Pull it back out of the way, and I take a bungee and I just take it back to my rack right here to keep it out. And then there's a plastic push tab that comes out. Then there's 2 10mm nuts up here that come out. Then there's a series of the plastic piece across the top has got to come off, as well as a bunch of little like 8mm or it's like 8 or 7mm bolts across the front of the bumper. And then literally you get to a point where you just start pulling on this. This whole bumper's about ready to come off now. So I'm going to get it back down and then pop the top now. The whole lower skirt has got to come off all the way across. And then this thing is ready to pretty much come right off the vehicle. Here you can see I've got all the plastic off the front of it right here. And now I'm ready to actually unclip this part right here that folds over this. And then this bumper is literally going to come right off. And then you'll have to reach behind it and unplug anything that's plugged in. But these little tabs, they're flexible. And they hook onto these little plastic nubs. It just comes right off after that. But you got to get the screws off. These are, I think, 10 mil? Where are they at? Right here. These plastic screws, they're really coarse. They're 8 mil. These come off all the way across. It's ready to come off now. Alright, it's off on the ground on the lower plastic. And then you just had 2 headlight connectors. Just kind of hold it with one hand and then unplug your headlights on the other. Or with your other hand. And then here's the shutter assembly that's got to be replaced. It's all one unit. Pretty easy to get in and out. Unplug all your connectors and stuff. What is this? Ambient air temp sense? Yeah. It's really cheap. Kind of cheap, isn't it? So just unbolted now. Looks like 8 mil, 8 mil. And then you got these push tabs right here. It should come out of here. Okay, now that I got this pulled forward, back here where this goes in, it actually screws into this top part of this runner assembly. There's 2 like 5.5mm plastic screws that go through there. Just flip that down, lift this up a little bit, unplug this connector, So what I did is I pulled this forward, lifted it up some, and then I wrenched my hand back behind here, and that's how I unplugged that actuator in the center. So basically what I did was I fed that little latch assembly up, the little piece, I fed it up through the back, pushed everything back up where it goes, put this part up here, leave it a little bit loose. If you want to, at this point, you can go ahead and take, I didn't say earlier, but go ahead and pull this off before you even get started. This ambient temp sense. And then when you lower the vehicle, you can go ahead and get all these bolts started. And when you lower the vehicle, you can reach your hand down in there with a 1/4 inch drive ratchet and put those two 5.5 millimeters back in that assembly where that bracket goes. You can see here how I just reach my hand down in there and then just take that 5.5 millimeter on the ratchet. Now I'm going to go ahead and make sure that push clip is pushed back onto that tab area right there where it goes. Alright, you can see how I've pushed that little right there, pushed it back onto its holding spot. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish getting everything bolted back up, put all my push tabs in, my 8 mils in the front. You can do it in whatever order you want. This is basically just to show you the gist of how this is done. You're going to want to pull those 5.5 mils out before you even start messing around with anything up here. When you first get everything off and you're ready to start pulling this, just reach down in there and do those two 5.5 millimeters first before you even take anything else off, just to get that out of the way whenever you first start going into removing it. Well, that's the conclusion of this. Everything's all put back together. Everything's bolted down. Now you just basically reverse the procedure. It's like stupid easy to get these front clips off of these Mustangs. It's really, really, really simple. And then while you're in here, if you wanted to go ahead and do some headlight work or something like that, you know you have your access to your headlights. There's a bolt here. There's a bolt here. The bolt back here in the corner that you can actually pull out with the fender lip back. You can wrench that out of there. And you could probably get this from underneath, like underneath the vehicle from behind the bumper, pull that bolt out. And then the bolt up here on top. But you can tell somebody's been in all this. There's a lot of stuff that just doesn't even look right here. So the connectors for the headlight, I was able to just, you can unplug both headlights while it's up in here to begin with. This is kind of a learning curve for me as I'm doing it. So you can unplug that connector and the other one before you even take it out. So when you do go to lift this thing off of here, you don't have to reach down in there with one hand to unplug them. So I'm going to finish bolting everything back up. But here's the gist of it. And then it's just reverse procedure at that point. So I don't think I need to continue the video anymore. You guys can figure that out. You all are pretty smart. But if you have any questions, please let me know. The part number for the active grill shutter is JR3Z 8475 Bravo. Why is my phone acting up today? Crazy, man. Anyhow, y'all be blessed. To show you guys that the bottom of this assembly, the shutter assembly, actually has bolts in it down here. I just take the whole bracket and stuff out of my way. But the shutter actually, the bottom bolts right to this bracket that goes across, and it's all 8 millimeters. I'm going to brush over the center console real quick so we can just talk about it. Before you do anything on this center console, you can, this part right here snaps into the middle of that up there in front of those cup holders. Literally, you just grab this. You can take a pry tool if you want, but I don't do that. I've done it so much I got a feel for it, and I just pop it up and I start working my way around, and I pull it all the way up and I leave it up here kind of like hang. And then once I get that up, I'll come back here and I'll pop the back. It's just all push tabs. Go up here, pop the little side panels off, I just pop these straight off, and then there's 2 screws. There's a screw here, and there's a screw bolt, whatever, on the other side right here. Same spot, but on the other side. And then you got to take yeah. I pulled 2 screws out of here. Okay, so pulled the 2 screws out of here. And then at the bottom of this cup holder, there's 2 screws down there. Or 2 nuts down there. And then you can lift up this and pull the restraint control module. The restraint control, front control, the front restraint control module is right there. And whenever you get into an accident, it stores a code and it won't get rid of it. It's got to be replaced. Some electronics companies can wipe them, but it's not even worth it. Just buy a new restraint control module and have it programmed. So now you can literally slide this whole center console out of there. I don't really need to slide it out. You can put a block of wood or something under the back. And then, you know, fish your stuff out of the side. Then you don't have to pull the whole thing out of there, or you can. It's up to you, whatever you want to do. Now I'm just rolling the seat all the way forward. And there's the restraint control module. There it is. 2 bolts in the back and 1 bolt in the front. Let's put the new one in and program it. So I'm putting all this back together now. Just putting the plastic. It's got little push tabs it sits in. See, that sits right there. And what you do is you'll start taking all the hardware, putting all the screws and stuff back together. There. Up in the front. Alright, got them put in on both sides. Now I'm going to work on getting this side piece and stuff back together. Actually, I forgot, this top piece has to go on first. Let me get the battery charged up. Okay, so after you install your RCM in the center console, bolt everything down, get everything put back together, hook up your computer, you'll have to go through and do a programmable module installation. So you go to module programming, and then you'll go to programmable module installation, and then you're going to go to RCM, and then it's going to say set the ignition switch on. It's going to run you through some prompts. Once it detects that there's no data in that computer, it's going to say, okay, we need to pull from the network. Just keep going through it and just keep saying yes. And let it know that it can automatically pull files from the internet. When you're done, you're going to have a code set in the computer, typically something like longitudinal acceleration sensor. It's an initialization thing that the computer needs to go through. So what you'll do here, we just acted like we went through that one, even though I already got that. ABS light's going to be flashing, advanced track's going to be flashing, all kinds of stuff. So go to your drop down box here and your toolbox. You're going to go to chassis, and then you're going to go to braking, and then under braking it's going to say IVD. Set the wheels straight, make sure nobody's in the vehicle, doors are closed, initialize the IVD sequence, and all of a sudden Lights clear on the dash. Nothing on the dash anymore. Just says full accessory power active. This is the code you just cleared. So now re-clear the code again. It should be out of the computer. You're safe to drive it at that point. Now your wrecked Mustang with new shutters, because that's where it got hit, and new RCM will leave you good to go, and you're fine at that point. RCMs, when they get restraint events or accidents, they have to be replaced. They cannot be reused. Unless you go through a specialty company or know some kind of trick that I don't know, they got to be replaced. For this is a 2.3 liter EcoBoost. Here's the old one that I pulled out. The part number for the new one, JR3Z14 Bravo 321 Delta. And this is what you're replacing. Okay, everything is clear. There's no restraint events left in the system. Now you're clear to drive your car. So I'm going to get in this thing and go test drive it. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. And you can see in the beginning of the video I said it had 3,000 miles. It doesn't. It has 11,900. I apologize for that. I thought it was less than what it is. But this vehicle was bought from auction. They thought they were getting a really good deal. When you clear the codes on an RCM or just basic restraint event stuff, they can actually clear for days before they show back up again. This one just happened to come back right away. So when I initially looked at this vehicle, it seemed like a fluke, like it was a battery voltage thing. But when I started looking deeper into it, I could see that it was in an accident. Then when I started asking the customer questions, that's when they confessed that they actually did get this vehicle from auction. And it does make sense that it was in an accident. It must have been something very, very minor, because all the people had to do was just repaint the front bumper, and they just reused the active grille shutter that was there before, and it was damaged. So that's the reason for the restraint control module replacement and the active grille shutter replacement. Thank you guys.